You're watching the right video to see how the PETROFF defense is getting crushed in only 13 moves in a game between two absolute top stars. Arjun Erigaisi playing with the white pieces against Ian Nepomniachtchi. And it's not just a random Grandmaster game, it's the Speed Chess Championships. It's a blitz game we are going to have a look at, 5 minutes plus 1 second increment. And Ian Nepomniachtchi, he is the leading expert, or at least one of the leading experts in this opening. And he's getting crushed in only 13 moves. So that's something very unusual, very exciting. So let's have a look how it starts with the moves 1e4, e5, knight f3, knight f6. This is the PETROFF defense, and as I said, Ian Nepomniachtchi has been playing it in his World Championship match with Magnus Carlsen. He even played it in candidates tournaments when he managed to win a number of games even with the black pieces, and that's very special at the highest level, especially when you keep in mind that the draw with black is a good result, and Ian Nepomniachtchi showed that you can even play for a win in this line. But Arjun Erigaisi plays a move, one of the main lines. I mean, the main move here is, of course, to take the pawn on e5. But Arjun Erigaisi wants to open the center now with the move d4. So you're opening the center with the aim of getting your minor pieces out as quickly as possible. So the main move is knight takes e4. And in a lot of games, white continues here with the move bishop d3 to attack the knight. But that also gives black the chance to establish the knight in the center with the move d5. White will take the pawn back, but yeah, okay, it's an interesting theoretical line. Many things can still happen there. But instead, Erigaisi goes for this move, d takes e5. It's also a very nice move, and the pawn on e5 looks like it sort of isolates the knight on e4 from support from its pawns. And white has very simple plans of attacking the knight, and the knight really needs to get some support. So I would say a move like d5 is still quite reasonable for black. But Nepo played here the move bishop c5. And now this is one of the sharpest lines available in the PETROFF defense. The knight and the bishop, they are together attacking the pawn on f2. And white doesn't have a convenient way to protect the pawn. I mean, you don't want to allow a capture on f2 by any of these pieces. But bishop e3, it's not really nice. I mean, you can avoid the capture of the pawn on f2, but ending up with such pawns is just awful news. So what should white do? Well, look guys, now things are heating up already at move 5, bishop c4. White is ignoring the threat and allows black to take the pawn on f2. There are two options. You can take either with a knight or with a bishop. If you take with a bishop with check, the king will go away, and you're no longer able to castle. That's not allowed. But the main problem for black is that now white is about to play a move like queen d5, attacking the knight. The knight has to go somewhere, but these two pieces, the bishop and the queen, they're also attacking the pawn on f7. So it's like a double attack. Even if you solve one of these problems, let's say the knight could go somewhere, also the bishop on f2 could be hanging. So taking with the bishop is a serious mistake. The main move is to take with a knight on f2. And this is a knight fork on the queen and rook. Very aggressive play. Looks as if black is winning instantly. And white wants to move the queen away. But if the queen goes to d5 with a double attack on the pawn on f7 and the bishop on c5, well, you're not going to take the rook yet. But you play here the move queen e7. You're solving the double attack. And, well, rook is hanging and, well, threats are gone. Black is a pawn up. That's good news for black. So instead of playing queen d5, typical technique when you're on the attack is like you have an idea, it doesn't work, reverse the move order. So instead, bishop takes f7. It's the key move. It's a check. You capture the pawn, basically forcing black to take it. It's the most sensible continuation. And now the queen comes into d5 with check and hits the bishop on c5. And the question, of course, is where is the king going? That is a serious issue here for black. I mean, if you go back to e8, then the bishop comes out to g5, hitting the queen. The queen can't go anywhere. You have to block with the bishop, but then you take the bishop, queen recaptures, and now the knight on f2, it's no longer supported by the bishop on c5, and therefore you can take on f2. White has regained the material, and okay, you're no longer able to castle, but the rook can quickly come into play. You have a huge space advantage thanks to the pawn on e5. Very easy development. White is clearly better, so the king can't go back. Going back to f8 is also not good because you capture the bishop with check, and after that the knight on f2 is hanging. So the only move here is king to g6. Now you take the bishop. Black can take the rook in the corner. So black is even material up. If we do the material count, we see that black has an extra rook. But keep in mind that the knight on h1 is kind of stranded. Black, it doesn't make sense for black to try to save the knight. That's simply impossible. And what should white do? I mean, white can try to win the knight back as quickly as possible. You can go back with the queen to g1 and pick up the knight in the corner, but that's wrong strategy. The knight cannot leave the board anyway, and you want to keep your pieces as active as possible. And white's compensation is based on the exposed king on g6. So rather than winning back the material, we aim for very quick development. We play the move knight c3, very good move, and white is just about to go bishop e3 and maybe castle queenside and try to pick up the knight in the corner at some point. I think that's quite a logical way of playing. You're an exchange down in that case, but the game continues and black's king is unsafe while the other pieces are too far away to help out. So black has to give some priority of bringing its king into safety. h6 is a good move with the idea of covering the g5 square, so white cannot develop the bishop with a gain of time, while at the same time the black king can always come back to h7. Now, very interesting move is the move queen to c4, covering some light squares so that the king can't go anywhere, and maybe at some point queen e4 is a possibility. So how should black continue here? Well, frankly speaking, this has all still been seen in other games before. Nowadays, this is well-known theory, but it's easy to forget your lines, and especially in an online game, maybe you're in a more relaxed mood, and well, you forget about the ins and outs. Nepo played here the move d5, which is a bad move, but I will show you what should have been played instead. King h7, trying to bring the king into safety, is the main move. The idea is that after queen e4 check, the king goes to g8, and then it's a repetition of moves. You can go back and forth with the queen and king. This is a draw. I mean, there are ways to keep the game going. I will explain to you in a bit. I just should also point out that after queen e4 check, black cannot really block with the pawn. It's not really recommendable because now the knight will come in to d5 with plans of coming to f6, and then the knight is fantastically supported by the pawn. Things are looking very dangerous. Now you may think, okay, is this a forced draw? No way. I mean, white can go for draw if he wants, but instead he can also consider a move like knight d5, which is very aggressive. The knight will join the attack, but black can also consider playing rook e8. And now if you go for a move like knight f6, which is something we will get to see in the game, I don't want to spoil anything, but I do it anyway. The main idea behind black's last move, rook e8, is that the pawn on e5 is pinned, and there is queen takes f6. The queen cannot be taken because of that rook on e8. So that's a nice trick. There are a lot of theoretical ideas. Maybe at some point we will get more into detail. But anyway, I thought this was a very relevant line. Nepo, caught by surprise or forgot the ins and outs, decided, okay, I'm a rook up. I want to bring my pieces into the game as quickly as possible. Played here the move d5, attacking the queen. It's a very logical move in a way, so that you're giving back a pawn, enabling your bishop to be developed. But after knight takes d5, where are you going with your bishop? The bishop doesn't have many good squares to go to. If you go bishop e6, well, there is this move knight to f4 with check, and on the next move the queen can even take the bishop on e6. So basically, after knight takes d5, the bishop is no longer able to be developed to a good square. If you play something like bishop f5, for instance, then at least knight h4 can be played with a knight fork. You're attacking the king and the bishop. Queen protects the knight. So on the next move, you take that bishop on f5. So that's not possible. Nepo instead went for the move knight to c6. And what should white do here? Well, Arjun played here move bishop e3. It's a very sensible move, but not the best. Instead, much better here is a move like knight h4. When the king is just caught in the corner, it doesn't have many good squares to go to. If you go to h7, there's a beautiful trick with knight f6 check. Look, the king can't go anywhere. After g takes f6, queen f7 is checkmate. Beautiful checkmating idea. I think white should have gone for it, so Erigaisi could have even won faster. Instead, he played the move bishop e3. And the idea of Arjun's play was, okay, if black plays a random move, let's say rook f8, with the idea to get the king back into the corner, let's say king h7, followed by king h8, then white is going to castle queenside with an threat against the queen. I mean, knight f4 could be an idea. The rook is attacking the knight, so that looks really, really good. But instead, Nepo didn't play rook f8. He went for the move king h7 right away, believing that, okay, if he has time, he will go for rook f8. But now, guys, this is the big moment of the game. As after white's next move, it was time to resign. And after the move knight f6, Nepo was smiling. He understood that he had overlooked this typical blow. And as I said, black resigned here, because if you take the knight, the queen comes into f7. This is a beautiful checkmate pattern. The king can't go anywhere. The pawn on h6 blocks the escape square from the king, as so does the rook on h8. If we go back one move after knight f6, is there anything else black can do? Well, you can take with the queen, but then you're just losing your queen on f6. So that doesn't make sense. Well, in case of the king goes back to g6, well, that also doesn't look great. It does allow the move knight h4 with checkmate. This is also beautiful. All these squares have been taken away by white's minor pieces. Also, the knight on f6 covers the h7 square. The queen covers the f7 square. So all these squares have been taken away. It's a beautiful checkmate pattern. And anyway, I thought this was quite remarkable that a top player like Nepo just lost, and in such a short game. So I hope you liked it. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so yet. And of course, I will cover more games from the Speed Chess Championship and other exciting games coming up. So hope to see you back very soon at the channel.